Hey, Vinyl community, welcome to another Monday Night for Horsemen episode. Actually, we're missing one of our favorite friends. Josh could not be here with us tonight, but we want to send a shout out to JC. Wish you were here.
Gosh.
But the four of us are going to carry on and we're going to show 3 albums. No particular genre, no particular era, just 3 albums that we would recommend people check out. We've got, of course, as always, Chris Propfe from Chris Propfe, Musically Obsessed. We've got Gary from Physical Format Rock and Roll, and we have Aaron Mutha Alamare, the ambassador of the vinyl community. And we are gonna go in clockwise order from where I am right now. So Chris, you want to start with your first album?
Sure. Let's start with a big seller here.
What is it?
With Rod McEwen. Now, this is probably why I only get 50 views on my videos. Rod McEwen Concerto for Balloon and Orchestra. Okay, so seriously, hear me out. This is a kick-ass record. Now, this is my 3A. I have a 3B to show too. This is a kick-ass record. Came out in 1977. Now, here's the thing. Rod McEwen, he rode hot air balloons. I'm serious. In the liner notes, it talks about how he rode hot air balloons. There are 3 movements: tournament, floating, and Landsat. It's a killer record. And all joking aside, I have to show this because I've been listening to it a lot lately. But that's my 3A. Whew. And I wonder why only 50 people are watching my videos. All right, so next. All right, this is my 3B because I had to step it up a little bit. I'm going with Striper, To Hell with the Devil. Now, this is the original cover where they changed it. All right, I just love this Striper record. If I had to pick one Striper record, it would be this. I mean, you've got the song To Hell with the Devil on here. All the hits: Calling on You, Free, Honestly. It's just a great record, great playing. Michael Sweet, great vocalist. I actually saw them live, and people always talked about how Striper would throw Bibles out into the audience. And it's true. When I saw them live, they threw like these little Bibles out. I actually have one. I should try to dig it out one of these days. But yeah, so this is just one of my favorite albums, and definitely have to show it. So
I saw them on that tour. Actually, I saw them on that tour. And I'm not kidding either. Yeah, no, I really did see them. I saw them at the Royal Oak Music Theater, and it was like our church youth group. Because I was probably, like, what year did that come out?
82
or 83?
86 or so, wasn't it?
86.
Oh, 86? Okay. Yeah, so it was like our church youth group or whatever had organized kind of a, we all got together and went and saw them on that tour. But yeah.
And I just want to let people know, I am not joking when I talk about Rod McEwen. It struck me funny tonight, but I really do like him. And I know he's not everybody's cup of tea, and it's not like the cool thing to say, but
I didn't know you liked Rod McEwen.
Yeah, I didn't either.
No, I don't. It's not like I talk about him that every video, right?
Yeah.
That Striper record was really good. I used to have the cassette with that original cover on it back in the 80s.
Yeah, it's such a cool cover.
But I don't have
That one, the balloon one.
They just did like a black cover.
Yeah, it just had the To Hell with the Devil in the black and the red on the black.
Right.
I think Rod McEwen did a black cover for the album you showed as well.
I think he did. Yeah. I don't know. I guess I think I'm the only one in the VC waving the Rod McEwen flag.
Yeah.
Should I be proud of that, or is that something?
Yes, you should.
You should wear it like a badge of honor.
He's your Sweet FA.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Sweet FA is cooler than Rod McEwen, though.
I don't know. Do they fly in hot air balloons?
I don't think so.
Because Rod McEwen does.
Like, who makes an album like that? Like, okay, guys, I have an idea for a record. Like yesterday I was in my hot air balloon, and
I thought that was the cover to the Fifth Dimension album.
yeah, this concerto came to me, and
Okay.
but and all kidding aside, it's a classical piece of music. Sort of a strange title, but I think I really enjoy this record. I mean, if you're not into classical music, you're not going to like it. But
Now, it's classical music, but is this one where he's like reciting poetry, or what's
no,
it?
it's strictly classical music, and that's what's really cool about it. Is he did movie scores, he did classical music, he did folk music, he did like pop, and a lot of people have covered his songs too. So
So he composed the music for that, is what you're saying. Okay.
he composed the music for this, yeah, and this
Huh.
was recorded in St. Giles Church in London. I have no idea anything about St. Giles Church. It's the National Philharmonic Orchestra that plays. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to mention too. There's synthesizer in this too, which is kind of cool. Because a lot of times, you don't get synthesizer in classical music. So I guess it does get a little proggy at times. But
Did he
yeah,
play
I
the
like it.
guitar?
I dig it. No. The key. Oh, yeah. I like that instrument. But no, that doesn't appear on this album.
Okay.
So, whew. All right. Well, where do we go from there? Right? Can only go up from there.
I could, when you were talking about Stryper throwing Bibles, I pictured big King James Bible throwing it. And people
Yeah,
getting
boom,
hit.
right
Going,
in the head.
what the hell are you doing?
No, they're the little Bibles. Yeah. Baby Bibles.
Little Gideon Bibles.
Hmm.
Okay. Well, I don't know if I can follow that, but so this is an album. A lot of people reviewed it early on, but I just wanted to bring it up again. And that's the Dead Daisies, Holy Ground. I guess I just want to say it again because, I'm sure there's still a lot of people that probably haven't picked this up. And I feel like this would be an album that could appeal to, like people my age and older and people younger. It's just got that kind of timeless vibe to it, in my mind. And that's why I'm bringing it up again. And it's got, Glenn Hughes singing on this thing and playing bass. And he just sounds great. It's funny because I just told my wife, like right before we came on, she's like, what albums are you going to talk about? And I said, well, and I'm grabbing a couple. And I said, I think I'm going to mention this one. And she's listening to it, she's kind of bopping her head. And I said, now you hear that guy singing? I said, here's the thing. I said, he's also on this album. And, Deep Purple Stormbringer from, I don't know, I think 74, I think, or somewhere right around there. And I said, and he still sounds this good. And the thing about Glenn Hughes is it's not studio magic, making him sound that way. I saw him, well, I guess it'd probably be 2 years ago now or whatever, but I saw him up in Cleveland at a fairly small place. And he was doing all those Deep Purple songs for the albums that he was on. And I mean, it's not like he does those kind of scream things or stuff every now and then. He does them at some point in every song.
Yeah.
And then he comes back and he sings something slower. Like on this album ends with a song called Far Away. And a lot of that is like slower, where he's doing that soulful kind of voice that he has. And then it kind of kicks in more. That's the thing. He's got a R&B voice doing rock and metal. And this is a fairly hard rocking album too. It's got Doug Aldridge on guitar, who is a fantastic guitar player. He spent a few years in Whitesnake. He was with Dio, and he when I heard those two guys were going to be working on this thing together, I was like, oh man, I can't wait. It's going to be great. And it is. This is one of my favorite albums of the year. It just rocks. And it's got some soul to it. And these guys are going to be touring this summer.
Nice.
And I'm trying to decide which date is going to work out, because I would really like to see this. That's the thing. When I told you that I saw Glenn Hughes and his band playing, there were times I was close enough that sometimes when he was singing, I could hear his voice from the stage over the PA. I mean, he sings that powerful. And I'm thinking, this guy is like, he's got to be about 70, I'm thinking. Somewhere right around in there. And he just hasn't lost a step. So.
Well, what's crazy about that is that you think of Ian Gillan. Ian Gillan cannot hit the high notes. I saw Deep Purple and Judas Priest. I love Ian Gillan. I love his voice, but he doesn't have the high notes anymore. And you're totally right, Glenn Hughes. I mean, I almost feel like his voice gets better.
Yeah, there's just a small handful of those guys that can, Robin Zander from Cheap Trick.
Yeah,
he seems like he can still really pull it off. And some of the guys can't do it like they did, but they still manage to do a good job. Like you said, Ian Gillan, he's one of them. He can't do a lot of that high stuff. David Coverdale has lost a lot of that, but they still do a great job, just kind of maintaining what they're doing. But yeah, Glenn Hughes is like a freak of nature. The fact
Glenn Hughes saying Black Country Communion too, right?
Yes, he did.
That's another great band.
It is. That is another great band. Yeah, I love that band too.
Our Tony Iommi record too. He was a singer.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Who just showed they had an album of that? I just saw that.
A couple people recently.
Is that the seven star album?
Because I haven't. I think it was Rod the Happy Hippie was showing it.
Yes, you're right. Yeah, you're right too, Chris.
And I'm going to throw this out there. Wasn't his pre-Deep Purple band Trapeze?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
That makes up for my Rod McEwen record.
Hey, I love hearing you talk about Rod McEwen. I really do.
I still need to pick that Dead Daisies record up because I really like. I have their previous album to that with the John Corabi singing on it. That's a great record, and I need to pick that one up still.
I didn't know. Hell, I'd have bought that for you a long time ago if I would have known that. You know how hard it is to try to get you some BCLT? Jeez.
Yeah, I'll be back sometime as soon as I see it. So.
All right, Aaron, it's you.
So I'm going to go with an album from 1982. It's one of my favorite albums of that year. It's a third release from this band. This is Axe Offering. And I've talked
about that cover.
Love this record. And I think it's one of the most underrated records of the 80s because people that know it know how good it is, but not a lot of people really know this record. And, it was from 1981 and it hit, 82 and it hit 81 on the US charts. That's how high up it got. That was it. And Rock and Roll Party in the Streets, the lead-off song, actually made it to 23 on the charts. So it did pretty good. But this album is just so great. It's kind of like a Southern rock mixed with a little bit of harder rock and a little, it's just, that's good. That's a good one.
I have the other one.
But this one here, I think is better than all their other albums put together. I just love this record. It's got the most famous song, but it's not just that. It's got some heavy moments, almost heavy metal on this. And it's got some Southern rock vibes. And like the song Now or Never, I thought should have been a huge hit. It's kind of the slower song. And they do a version of I Got the Fire, the Montrose song. I like it better. The version on here actually better than the Montrose version. It's just, there's a lot of energy to the vocals. It's if you mixed, you know this record probably, Gary, don't you? A little bit.
Actually, I don't. That's what I was going to say. I've seen it, but I have never heard it.
Yeah. Well, it's say you mix not Leonard, the other Molly Hatchet. If you take that Loverboy, kind of mix their sound and add a little bit of a heavier edge to it. Kind of what you get with this. It's got that.
I'm going to find that now. That I assume does that band still exist?
Well, they had one album after this called Nemesis. It was pretty good. This album, by far, it just blows all their other ones away. It's just so good. Song Silent Soldiers is amazing. Still Another Fantasy. I've listened to this hundreds of times. And I remember when I was young, my neighbors had it, and they had it upstairs, and you could hear they play the stereo out of the window, and they kept playing this thing. Like, we're outside, like, playing sports here, and they're like, "Oh my God, I love that. What is that?" And that's how I got to know this when I was about 14 years old, and I've been listening to it ever since. And it's just,
Where are they out of?
they're from Florida,
Oh, Florida.
Florida band, hard rock. You know, there's some elements of this that are almost metal. Some elements, you know, it's kind of like like I said, Molly Hatchet mixed with Loverboy kind of, and then you add a little heavier edge, and they're just amazing. And I might have to play this tomorrow night if I can get away with it, just so you guys can hear it.
Yeah.
I love that cover.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too. That cover is awesome.
Yeah.
Where does this one fall? Like, is this before or after that one?
That's their first record.
Okay.
First Accent they had, Living on the Edge their second, then Offering, and then Nemesis. That's their only 4 albums they had. And Bobby Barth is the lead singer. But this is just a great album. I'm gonna try to play this tomorrow. I'll see if I can get away with it. But as soon as you hear the first piano part, a rock and roll party in the streets, it just gets you in this great mood. It's just very catchy. I don't know if any of you have heard that song.
No.
Lockdown, drive, rock and roll party in the streets.
Maybe
It was
I've heard.
Yeah, it was almost a top 20 hit back in '82. So,
Oh, well, I'm sure I've heard it.
yeah, it's an amazing record. I can't recommend that one enough.
Cool.
Slow.
All right. Well, my pick, you know, this is a band also that maybe not a lot of people have heard of, but I'm gonna go with this is a band called Boston. If you've never heard them, they're kind of a little bit like Montrose, a little bit early Journey. They've got a little bit some prog thrown in there somewhere. They were kind of popular, I guess, like the mid 70s. They were from Boston, didn't get a whole lot of radio play. No, I'm really not picking that up. I'm sorry.
Sounds a little bit like Boston.
Yeah, exactly. It's a cool album cover anyway, but no. The first album I'm going to show, and this is an album by a band that actually originated in Cincinnati, Ohio. They were formerly called the Raisins, and they broke up in 1985. And Adrian Belew from King Crimson, guitarist in this band. They are a power pop outfit, and they rose from, like I say, they were from Cincinnati, Ohio, and Adrian Belew is their guitarist, but just real kind of quirky early 80s kind of new wave power pop. If you like kind of like the Replacements, I don't know, they don't sound like anything else on the radio. They use a lot of backwards guitar effects, but just really melodic power pop, a lot of fun to listen to. The guy who did the album cover artwork is a guy, he worked for Mad Magazine.
Yeah.
Which is why that looks familiar. But yeah, it's a really cool album. You know, it rocks hard in places, but it's just kind of got a real quirky sound to it. A little bit of Devo influence I hear a little bit, but yeah, just a real enjoyable album to listen to. They only came out with 2 albums, this one and then Rise and Shine was the album that followed this one. And then I think they had one, they reformed, I think in the early 2000s and put out another album. But the reason they chose the name The Bears is because they wanted this album, because they knew, like in the record racks, all the albums were alphabetized. So they wanted this album as close in proximity as possible to the Beatles. So that's why they chose this name, because they figured a name like that, like you couldn't get much closer, you know, as far as having your record close to the Beatles in terms of, you know, in the record store. So I just read that today. I thought that was kind of funny. But anyway, it's worth checking out. Fear is Never Boring is, I think, the single off of here. But yeah, it's a real cool album. I've loved it for a while, but I've never seen anybody show the album. never heard anybody talk about the album. I don't think that, I thought maybe Gary might, because you know, you're from Ohio and they're a native Ohio band, although they're from Cincinnati, but still
Yeah, never heard of it.
worth checking out.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very cool. My turn?
Yep.
Oh, here we go. Well, I was going to show Slayer the Repentless Killogy tour, which is killer. This was their last tour. And they do a bunch of songs off of Repentless and all the you know, early tracks. But then I just changed my mind. I'm going to show the Dead Milkman Beals album. This is my favorite Dead Milkman record. And this had hit Punk Rock Girl on it, which was a huge song. My kids actually even like that song too. But what was really cool about the Dead Milkmen is they come across as a joke band, and you almost feel like, oh, these guys are just, they're not, are they really even good musicians or anything? But they actually really are good musicians. If you listen to their songs and their arrangements, again, they come across as a joke band, but they are very talented. This is a funny record. I mean, listen to some of these song titles: Smoking Banana Peels.
I love Stewart.
Stewart's a great song. Everybody's Got Nice Stuff But Me. Ringo Buys a Rifle. And then the classic Life is Shit. That's amazing album. But the Dead Milkmen, I mean, I love all their stuff. I love their album Bucky Fellini. I like Big Lizard in My Backyard. They're still recording, still doing some great music. The album that followed this was called I think Metaphysical Graffiti. It was like on physical graffiti, and even the cover looks like it too. But this is the album I always go back to, Beelzebub. It's just it's a great album. It's punk, but it's not straight punk. It's more, I mean, they mix a little bit of country, they mix a whole bunch of different genres, but really good band.
Well, that song Stewart, that's the one that sticks with me. And basically, if you haven't heard it yet, it's this guy like this, basically like a redneck or something, almost like the guy in the cover you could imagine. And he's talking to this kid who probably like cuts his grass or something like that. And he's just espousing like this conspiracy theory about they don't know what the queers are doing to the soil. Yep. He's just like all this. The whole thing is like this conspiratorial rant that he's going on. He's like talking to this kid who's probably like 13 or 14, and he's just like on this long rant, you know. And it's just, yeah, it's pretty hysterical.
I also love that it's on the Enigma label. I just have always loved that white Enigma label. I think Stryper was on there too, I want to say. But yeah, just a great album, great band.
Yeah, I think Punk Rock Girl was probably the highest charting single they ever had. Actually,
yeah, I think so. Well, they also had well, it wasn't it was the song Bitchin' Camaro. Big Lizard in My Backyard, but I think that was almost like just like a college hit.
Yeah.
A great band though. I got into them as a kid. And I hate to call them punk rock because they're so much more than that, but I guess if you're going to label it, you would consider it punk rock. Maybe college rock. I don't know, but it's a lot of different styles.
Well, the lead singer's got a very distinctive voice. He's got one of those voices like you instantly know that it's them.
Yep.
Kind of like the Violent Femmes. You automatically know when you hear him start that it's the Dead Milkmen, but
that would have been another great album to show.
Mm-hmm.
That Violent Femmes album with I forget. That's a great album.
And they had a song too, isn't it? There was some song about
that album right there.
Yeah, but the Dead Milkmen, I think they had another song, wasn't it, about like instant dance, instant
club, you'll dance to anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a cool sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a band like this probably couldn't come out with an album because I don't know nowadays, because I don't know how politically correct some of these songs would be.
Not at all.
This also, I'm sure they could do it.
Yeah, back in 1988, it didn't matter. So
Yeah.
Political correctness didn't exist yet.
it didn't. No, anybody could say what they wanted to.
Except you might get punched depending on who you're talking to. But
Right.
that's a cool choice. I don't have anything that digs that deep or anything for my next pick. But I went with Pretenders 2.
Nice.
I know everybody always talks about their debut album because it's kind of regarded as one of the better debut albums and everything. But I've always felt like Pretenders 2 stacked up just as well as the first one. I mean, honestly, in my own opinion, I probably like it a little bit better. I just think because it has such a wide variety of songs on here. And this is, of course, the last album, unfortunately, with James Honeymoon Scott. And I mean, I think the Pretenders have done some terrific stuff after this, but never quite matches up to the original Pretenders band that they had. I mean, Chrissie Hynde, obviously the leader of the band, you know, the chief songwriter and the singer and everything. But I think those first two albums show the contributions that, you know, James Honeymoon Scott and Pete Farndon made to the band, especially James, because he helped bring the lighter side to the Pretenders, which is a key part to their music in my mind. But to me, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the song Message of Love, but it was kind of a hit off of here. And I love that song. That's one of my favorite Pretenders song. Opens up with a really badass song called The Adulteress. You know, it opens up with these two real rocking songs, The Adulteress and Bad Boys Get Spanked. And both of those are just ass kicking songs. Then it goes into Message of Love, but it also has songs on there like I Go to Sleep, Waste Not, Want Not, Pack It Up, which are slower or just odd song. You know, there's always a song or two that has a reggae tinge to it. And to me, everything on this album, this is just one of my favorite albums, really. It's not just one of my favorite Pretenders albums. I just love this album. And I got it on cassette, like for Christmas when I was a kid. I've had it on CD and I've got it on vinyl. It's just, we all have those, you know, that we've had on every format because we love it so much. And to me, that's what Pretenders 2 is, just an album that I have loved since the day I first heard it, and I love it just as much now.
Well, Pete Farndon, that was the last album with Pete Farndon also, wasn't it?
Yeah, they both died after this. Of course, he got fired before he passed away because of all his shit that he had going on. You know, he's kind of like, really, you know, like Brian Jones basically gets fired then dies.
Yeah, well, the band that recorded Learning to Crawl was, I mean, half the original lineup was gone by that point.
Yeah.
I'll have to listen to that album.
What's that?
I only really know the first record. I'll have to listen to that one.
Yeah, I don't know if you like the first record or not, but
I do. Yeah.
I can almost guarantee that you'll like this second album because it's just, to me, it's another progression. I think it's great.
No, it's good. That's one I have that on cassette and vinyl, but the cassette I have, I think, is one of the oldest cassettes that I have because it's one of the ones that has like the sticker on it. You know, it's not just the credits printed on the cassette itself. But yeah, that's a fantastic album.
It is. Yeah, Aaron.
All right. Well, it's not like I ever showed this guy, but I just love this record. Rock and roll. Yeah. And this is maybe my favorite record he did. I mean, I like Citizen Ken a lot and Contagious, but this one here is just so solid all the way through. And I don't know what they did, but the production on these Greg Ken records, they just blow out of the stereo when you listen to them. They sound great. really good production on them. And the songs on here are just like, when this came out, new wave was really in full throttle there. I mean, it was new wave. There was the British, new wave of British heavy metal as well. And then this is just like straight rock and roll, and a little different, And he said he like played 3 guitars on this, 3 different Rickenbacker and like 3 different ones. And he was like, what was I doing? It was just, he was just having fun on it. And I actually recorded this in the same studio that Creedence recorded all their big hits. So they recorded, like Proud Mary was recorded in the same studio this was. Kind of crazy. What? And this has their second biggest hit, the breakup song. They don't write them like that anymore. Just a great song. But the deep tracks on here, if you call them deep, would be like When the Music Starts. I love that song. It just gets you so pumped up. It's amazing. And the 2 girl songs that starts off with, Valerie and Sheila, are both great. And then there's a really good song called Womankind on here. And that's kind of like a, what do you call it? Like a feminism, a song about feminism, about how the power of women and stuff. It's really good, just kicking song too. And Can't Stop Hurting Myself. I mean, this album just is amazing. And do you guys have this record? Any of you?
No, I have a couple other.
Yeah, I just, it's funny because I haven't showed it yet because on Vinyl Finds, because I had so many at one time. I just picked that album up, but yeah, I haven't got to listen to it yet. But
I have 2 extra copies of it. That's why I was wondering. So I'll send you one, Chris. This
awesome,
record's
awesome.
I just picked these up, a couple extra copies just recently. So I mean, every time I see one of these, I get it because I just love this record so much. I can't let it sit there. The Berserkly label. I don't know of any other band that was on Berserkly. Maybe one of you guys does, but it's kind of
that's cool.
And they do. I mean, the production is just amazing on it, and every song on this is very solid. It isn't like you have to fast forward through a song or anything on this record. It just flows really well. I listened to it today when I was getting prepped, and I was like, yeah, I'm jamming out to it. I love this. So I'm
glad you started talking about Greg Kihn, because it made me go back and find some of because I used to have one of them on cassette, and I totally forgot all about him. And now I've got 3 of his records, and they're all just good, solid, fun rock.
Yeah. And he's a way better musician than you think too. I mean, Joe Satriani played on one of his records. If he can have Satriani backing him up, I mean, he's got to be pretty good.
All his album titles are. I was gonna say all his album titles are a pun on his name, Ken. Like, you got that album. His next album was Kentucky Fried Chicken, which was a Southern album.
Yeah, I always really liked that when he did that. I mean, he had 1 or 2 that didn't have that, and I was like, what's going on here? Why don't he have like this and Conspiracy or Citizen Kane?
Yeah.
Kentucky Fried Chicken would have been great. I would have bought that in a minute. And at one point in my life, he was my favorite artist. So after the Beatles, I went to Greg Kihn, and then I went to ZZ Top, and then it was all metal. But those were my 3 bands that were a favorite of mine at one point in my life before I got really into metal. So that's how much.
Have you ever seen him live?
No. My dad saw him though. He played actually in Pocatello, where I'm at, in a little bar. My dad saw him, and I guess he ran into him in the bathrooms. Like, oh, you don't look like you doing their videos. He got mad at him or something. Drinking beer. Because it was right when Jeopardy was out. So the video for Jeopardy, I saw him all the time. He goes, oh, you look a little different than your videos. So, yeah.
Was he at the urinal?
I'm not sure. He didn't tell me that.
Okay. Well, when he said you look a little different, I didn't know. So
yeah, maybe
that's
why he was mad.
I'm coming in and out of there.
Shut up.
I wouldn't have known about Greg Kihn if it wasn't for you, Aaron, because you sent me. I'm looking at my Discogs right now. You sent me Continued.
Mm-hmm. That's a great record too.
And then I found his album With the Naked Eye.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one too.
Yeah, those are the 2 I have. I really like him though.
But this one here is better than both of those. But the Continued's really good too. I really like that one. Gets a little bit of reggae in there too, mixed, and good straight power pop, I guess you call it.
Did you ever pick up that one I showed you that he put out a few years ago, like that CD that he made? I just wondered if you got that one or not.
I very rarely order stuff, but so I usually just, if I run into it, I buy them. Kind of thing. I'm not a internet person really. I sometimes I'll have my record store order me stuff, but I don't order stuff on my own usually ever. So
That's
kinda
good,
weird.
really. That's awesome that you do that. I mean, I get most of my stuff at stores too, but occasionally I have to order some things.
Yeah. Ultimatum was the last thing I ordered, an Ultimatum record, and I was happy I did that. It was the last one available, so I had to jump on it, and that's a really good one.
Cool. Well, mine is from mine also is an album from the 80s, and I feel like this is one of the most underrated artists. He's never really gotten full appreciation. I feel, but I think it's because he jumps around stylistically with each album. His first couple albums were very much like Elvis Costello. They were released in the late 70s. And it's kind of like that new wave Elvis Costello, kind of a bit like the Cars, just sort of a kind of that quirky new wave post-punk. But then he started jumping around. He had a big band album. You know, he had an album of like torch songs. And this is one of my favorites of his. This is Joe Jackson. This is Body and Soul. And this is, if there was ever such a thing as new wave and jazz fusion, this would be it. But it's such a fantastic record. I'm a huge jazz fan, and he pulls it off so convincingly, and the songs are just fantastic. I love the album artwork too, because it looks like it's a jazz album from like the, you know, the 1950s or whatever. But the song most people recognize off of here is "You Can't Get What You Want Till You Know What You Want." But yeah, just a fabulous, real epic sounding record. But he pays homage to, you know, like classic jazz, but there's still that new wave sensibility about it. And Joe Jackson is just tremendous. I love the hell out of Joe Jackson. And I love the fact that, you know, he's not afraid to bounce around to different genres, and he does it so well. He doesn't do it half-assed. I mean, everything on here is just, he's got a full jazz ensemble on this record. And it's, I don't know, it's fantastic. I love what he does, and you know, him as an artist. He's still putting out records today that nobody listens to, but
Another record I need to get.
Is that early on in his career, that album?
I think this one was like 1984 or something like that.
That's about the era of the records I have.
It is 1984, yeah. So the fact that, like, you know, he's putting this album out in like the early 80s when everybody else is doing like drum machines, and kind of even Elvis Costello at this point. I mean, he was putting out albums like Goodbye Cruel World, which, you know, he's sharing vocals with Daryl Hall. He's got drum machines. It's a very kind of totally 80s processed. Yeah. Night and Day was the album that was before this, which had Breaking Us in Two and Stepping Out. Yeah, that was the other one. But this is a kind of a, I don't want to call it parody. It's more like, there's a Sonny Rollins album. It's got a blue tint to it that he borrowed like the idea for this album cover, but it's like the same concept, but it's got Sonny Rollins instead of Joe Jackson here. But people who love Joe Jackson, they know what I'm talking about.
Well, didn't he write Got the Time that Anthrax covered?
Yeah,
that's on the album. I don't have that one.
And like Look Sharp, It's Different for Girls, you know, so many different hits that he's had in the early 80s. But, you know, an artist like him would never get on MTV. But he had a couple of, you know, MTV, I think like Stepping Out was on MTV, might have been, but, you know, and then he just.
Anthrax must have, because they did Got the Time, and then they did I'm the Man.
Yeah, both those are fantastic records. Those are kind of his new wave records. Look Sharp, which was his first record, and then I'm the Man was his second album. And they're both very much like Elvis Costello, that early new wave, you know, sound. And then he branched out. His third album is very much kind of like a ska reggae album, Beat Crazy. And then he went into Night and Day, and then Jump and Jive, and Body and Soul. So just such a versatile singer-songwriter.
Good choice.
Yeah, very good choice.
Well, my third album is a Prince record, but it's not Purple Rain. It's my favorite Prince album, and it's Around the World in a Day. I've always loved this record. This is Prince's psychedelic record. He was sort of tapping into the whole Paisley Underground sound, like the Bangles were part of that whole thing. And, Prince was like, you know what, I'm going to do a psychedelic record. And I've always loved the cover artwork. And this, of course, had the hit Raspberry Beret, which I still love that song. But all the songs. And it also had a song called Pop Life, which I think was kind of a minor hit. But I tell you what, Prince, talk about a guy who did all different styles of music. I mean, we know he first started off more with like, R&B sort of dance sort of music, for lack of a better term. And then he turned a lot of us kids onto him, I think, with Purple Rain, because he brought more of that rock element into his sound. I mean, because we know Prince was a phenomenal guitar player. But then I feel like every album he changed gears, and then like this followed Purple Rain, and it sort of like came out with not a lot of, advertisement or anything. It sort of came out, and it's like, wow, okay. And Raspberry Beret was a huge song, but this is an album that you have to listen to quite a bit to kind of get it. I mean, there's some strange songs on here. He plays with different sort of like almost world rhythms on songs. He's got a song called Tambourine in America, which are kind of strange. And there's a song at the end called Temptation, where he's like almost arguing there's like the good side of Prince and the bad side of Prince, and they're arguing back and forth. It's just a strange way to end the album, but it just shows you that how creative he was as an artist. I'm trying to think what followed this. Was it Under the Cherry Moon, I want to say?
Yeah, Parade, I think, was the name of it.
Parade, yeah. And that was another psychedelic record as well. So this sort of sound carried into Parade. And then I think, didn't Sign of the Times come after that?
Mm-hmm.
And then he went back to more of a rock sound with Sign of the Times. But, this is probably definitely my favorite Prince album. Second, I'd probably have to say Sign of the Times. Sign of the Times is just a killer record. But if you only know Raspberry Beret off this album, you should really give it a listen. It's a cool record.
I like Paisley Park off there. I like that track too.
Yeah, and that was what he named his record company, Paisley Park.
Mm-hmm.
The only song that's a little iffy for me is the ballad Condition of the Heart. I don't know, there's something about his vocals that he does on that I'm not too into. And a really good deep cut on this album is called The Ladder. It's the second to last track. But I also think what's cool about this album is the songs. You can find the songs within the artwork. Like there's a ladder here. It's hard to see, but there's a ladder for the song The Ladder. And it's just one of those album covers that you can look at, and it goes along with the titles of the songs, and it sort of tells a story. I think is really cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Prince, I mean, if you like Prince, you know what I'm talking about, but just such a creative artist.
That's one we was talking about cassettes before we were taping there, and that's one of the cassettes I lost. I used to have that on cassette, and that's a great album. You're right. That is, and it's it had such a huge hit, but at the same time it's underrated because anything would be that came after Purple Rain.
But I think it was smart of him, because it's like, okay, so how do we follow Purple Rain? I mean, Purple Rain had Let's Go Crazy, When Doves Cry, Darling Nikki, and what am I forgetting? The title track, Purple Rain.
Yeah.
It had everything. Like, how do you follow an album like that? You can't make Purple Rain 2.
Right.
So he just totally changed gears. And I think it was like, it's almost like he just released this album with not a lot of fanfare, and he kind of just let it do its thing. And I think it was a smart move, because you can't follow Purple Rain with Purple Rain 2. You just can't do it.
And I think it kind of I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that I think that album kind of set the tone for Prince as far as him telling the world, I'm going to do what I want to do for each album.
Yeah.
I know I became this huge superstar, but you know, whatever I want to do is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think that album was almost a statement album, you know, because I really feel like, and then you guys just mentioned Sign of the Times.
Yeah.
Listen how different that is from this album. It's like he's going to do what he wants to do. And, you know, you have to admire him. And he's got so much stuff in the vault that, you know, he felt like, nah, I don't want to release that. And now there's going to be that question of, will they release it?
Yeah.
You know, obviously they want to release it, make the money off of it. Somebody wants to, but yet before he died, Prince didn't want that stuff released. You know, I mean, it's kind of like the whole Jimi Hendrix thing. Sometimes I feel like they just, anything they can find from Jimi Hendrix, they stick it out there, but it's like, maybe he didn't want that out there.
Yeah.
So now I kind of wonder what they're going to do with Prince, because supposedly he has albums and albums recorded.
And many videos recorded too. He filmed videos for tons of songs he never released too, I heard.
Really?
Like full-blown videos, yeah.
Oh, wow.
He just would make the videos and throw them in his vault.
And he came out with a Black album, which was really good. I also like his album Diamonds and Pearls. That's another great record. There's not much by Prince that I don't like. He's just really prolific, and like you were saying, Gary, I like how he changed his style. He didn't stick to one thing.
Yeah. I mean, people are always going to go back to the Purple Rain album, you know, because it hit so many people at a certain point.
Or 1999.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Whenever, you know, when those people became exposed to it and everything, I get that. But, you know, he's done so much besides that. Not that those aren't great. I mean, you can't deny Purple Rain that's just amazing, you know, but he's done so much different stuff.
I think the other thing that was cool about Prince is like he channeled some of the great artists. Like his guitar playing, he was definitely channeling Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
His dance moves was James Brown. I mean, he was, you know, he kind of channeled all these performers and to almost become like the ultimate performer. Prince did a Super Bowl halftime show, didn't he?
Oh, yeah.
That was one of the best Super Bowl halftime shows.
Yeah. Yes, it was.
Lately, that's for sure.
Yeah, lately it's like, all right, let's just throw some happy artists together. But Prince was killer.
Oh yeah, everybody loved that one. That was a great one. And you know, you were talking about artists that he channeled, or whatever. I mean, really, I don't know if this is a good comparison or not, but
Rod McCune.
How'd you know No, I was thinking lyrically, sometimes he's kind of like Bob Dylan. I mean, the way he jumps around in his lyrics and throws in different like characters and things, but yet he, you know, he makes sense with it. And it's like, wow, those are really cool lyrics. You know, I mean, he's kind of underrated sometimes as a lyricist too.
And to go along with the lyrics, I'm going to put Madonna with him as well. I'm a huge Madonna fan as well, but I think he and Madonna really sort of opened up the whole sexual aspect of lyrics too, because I think before Prince, people were kind of scared to say certain things. Prince came out and said, I mean, he had some dirty lyrics, and so did Madonna around like the Truth or Dare era. So I think those two artists sort of kind of pushed the envelope and showed that, hey, you know, maybe we can say some of this stuff in our lyrics. You know, I don't know.
No,
This has suddenly become a Prince video. We could all show our favorite Prince album. I'm just thinking we all like Prince. Maybe we don't, but
I like 1999 the best myself.
Yeah.
Well, now that we've been talking about Prince, we'll just go really far away from that.
Okay.
And I picked for my last one here, Anticipation by Carly Simon.
Wow, that's out of left field. Nice.
Yeah. This is probably my favorite album of hers. This is from 1971. This is like her second album. There you go. See.
Wait, the reason I showed that, Gary, is because I'm saying that's out of left field.
Yeah.
It shows Concerto for Balloons.
This, I think this album, it had Legend in Your Own Time and, of course, Anticipation that were hits off of it. But it's the songs also that are not hits that really fill this album out to me. Because Carly Simon made a lot of albums later on where, she'd have a couple hits and then a lot of the rest of the album is just kind of not much of anything. But this is just like a full album. In my mind, I can listen to this whole thing. I love the way it's recorded. The drums sound massive at times on this, believe it or not. And it's got some cool guitar work on this album. It's soft rock, right? Soft rock, a little bit of folk or whatever. But here's another person who I think writes really good lyrics. Carly Simon writes some intelligent lyrics in my mind. And there's just a lot of this on here. And this is really early in her career. So you've got like the song Anticipation on here, right? She's writing about she had a date with Cat Stevens is where the inspiration was for that. And just like anybody, right? Your first date with somebody, you're like, or third date with somebody, whatever. The anticipation of it, it's everybody can relate to that. And she's got another song on here, I Got to Have You. Yeah. It's just that's the last song. I've got to have you. And that's more after you've been with that person. And you're just, I have got to have you kind of thing. I mean, she has these kind of lyrics that everybody can relate to. She sings so well about insecurities that we all have, whether it's relationships or with family, whatever it is, friends. And this album is just a top to bottom great album. I think if somebody was, said, well, I don't know, what's Carly Simon album should I buy? I'd say this one. It maybe a greatest hits, but as far as ones that are not greatest hits, I just love this. I love this time period, early 70s and stuff. And I just love this album. Anticipation, Carly Simon.
What album was You're So Vain on?
That would No Secrets. That's the one after this one.
Okay, yeah,
that's the one.
Well, that's the only Carly Simon. Actually, no, I have. She had the album Boys and Trees, right? Boys in the Trees.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the album I had. That's a killer record too.
That's a pretty good one. Yeah, that's a little bit later on.
Yeah.
After that record, she started getting a lot more sketchy with some of the songs that she had. But I think all those early Carly Simon. So, that whole singer-songwriter phase of that time period.
Right.
And she's just one of the leaders of it. You've got, it's kind of like you had, I don't want to make anybody mad, but you went like from Joni Mitchell to Carly Simon, in my mind. I mean, I think there's a comparison there. And she also, we're talking about sexuality or whatever. Obviously, she doesn't have these vulgar lyrics or whatever. I don't want to use the word vulgar, but you know what I mean. The type of things that Prince or Madonna would do. But she speaks openly about different topics like that. And for a woman at that time period, I don't know. I just think it's really, she's just right there at that moment, speaking for women.
Well, I think her greatest hits album sort of had a risque cover.
Well, the No Secrets,
sort of a see-through shirt.
That's the No Secrets album.
Oh, okay.
Where it looks like maybe she's kind of cold when they took that picture. Yeah, that album covers what you're thinking of.
Yeah, and then I think right after that, Cat Stevens wrote Mona Bone Jacone.
Love that song.
Well, one of Carly Simon's first hit was That's the way I always thought it would. Whatever that, you know, the song I'm talking about, where it's about.
That's the way I always heard it should be. Yeah, that's off her
That's the
very
way I always
first
heard
album.
it should be. Where she's talking about like, look, my parents had a shit marriage, and I'm not sure I want to, you know, like dive into this. I'm not sure that's the way I want to go. But I love that song, and it's got such a powerful but stark arrangement to it. Like the drums on that, they feel like they were recorded like in an orchestra.
Yeah.
They echo, and it just like totally is such a great way to accompany those lyrics. One of my favorite Carly Simon songs is "Nobody Does It Better," which was from the James Bond movie.
Yeah.
That is a killer track, killer hook. Everything about that. I think that was probably at the height of her popularity and fame. But yeah, she's got some great, great songs.
Yeah, that was from The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah.
Soundtrack. Yeah, that is a great song. And you know what's crazy about the first song you said, that's the way I always heard it should be, is like, just think how young she had to be when she wrote that, because that was off her very first album. So, you know, she's probably in her early 20s as she's writing this, and that kind of stuff just amazes me. You know?
No, very mature songwriter at an early age. Absolutely. Yeah.
So if you had to choose Carole King or Carly Simon, who would you choose?
In what aspect? What do you just?
In just like, because I look at very similar artists. So if you were,
I can't.
Say if you could choose, like you had to listen to one and you couldn't listen to the other one ever again.
I would pick Carly Simon, but that's because I don't know as much about Carole King as, like, say, you do.
Right.
Maybe if I had more, you know, besides Tapestry,
right.
I don't really know. So I can't honestly, you know, say that. I mean, I'm saying it just because of what I know, Carly Simon.
And I don't know a lot about Carly Simon, so now I want to go back and listen to some of those early albums.
Now,
those early.
I was going to say, one of the things that I remember about that Anticipation song is it was in a Heinz ketchup commercial. They like used, unfortunately, it definitely cheapened the song because it became a, you know, a jingle instead of you know, the song it was meant.
Same way they also used her song "I Haven't Got Time for the Pain" for a jingle. So she had a couple songs that they did that with.
Yeah. All right, Aaron.
All right. Well, this album here is from 1989. One of my favorite albums of that year. It's The Hangman. And this is a very underrated record. I've listened to it a million times, and they're kind of they were influenced by Creedence Clearwater Revival, a band called the Gun Club, X, and Tom Petty. But say they kind of have the sound of them, only hard rock with a punk element. And it's just a great record. Every song on it is amazing. It's almost a storytelling record. All these songs have all these different stories about working in a coal mine, and the song "Rotten Sunday" is all about waking up with a hangover, after partying all day Saturday, lonely. "Slow Death" is about drug addiction. It's an amazing, amazing record. I wish everyone in the world could hear it. But they didn't get a lot of recognition because it wasn't straight heavy metal, wasn't hair metal, but it was out of that time. And it was almost more like grittier Guns N' Roses type, that kind of music, but a little grittier, a little more, little punk mixed in too, kind of a heavy punk edge. And they kind of like a predecessor of the Black Crowes, only heavier.
What year
is it?
What's up?
What year?
1989.
Is it anything like Circus of Power?
Oh, no. This is more.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like Tom Petty, Creedence, but hard rock.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Kind of bluesy, real bluesy, but heavy edge. And I just found this out. The singer here, Ryan Small, he's the only one who's been in the band the whole time. And he actually wrote most of this while he was living in Boise, Idaho. And I didn't even know that until recently, which is kind of weird. And they tried to put out a record after this. They got dropped by Capitol, went to Geffen, and then they were supposed to put a record out after this. It never got released. And so like a decade later, they finally put one out, but it kind of passed them by. They're still playing today, actually. They are
really?
with the only member. I think they might have the whole band back together, but this is just such a great record. And I used to like, I'd put this on and just sing the whole thing. It just has this easy to sing. It's kind of a different it's not like a chorusy singing, but it's just really gritty Americana, hard rock, great stuff. The Hangman, I just love it. And I'll talk myself into. I play this with on Capitol, so I've been wanting to play this on a Tippy Tuesday, but I don't think I can do it to the label.
Well, I know you've showed it on Tipsy Tuesday.
Yeah, and I would definitely play that musically on there, but I think it'd get blocked. But it's an amazing record. It's got a heavy hard edge. It's really energetic, kind of punkish, kind of bluesy, hard rock. Just great stuff. And storytelling, lyrics, amazing, amazing record.
It sounds great. Your description makes it sound great.
I'm sure you'd like it, Gary. It's right up your alley.
Sounds like it'd be right on my alley.
Yeah. So.
All right.
It's not Prince, but okay.
Yeah.
Hangman.
No, I think along those lines, though, Aaron, there were so many of those bands that sort of flew under the radar.
Mm-hmm.
The way you describe them, I think any of us would love those bands. It's just a shame that, they either didn't get enough radio airplay or they didn't have the financial backing or whatever. But I mean, the bottom line is there's so much good music out there that we haven't even seen. And I guess if we could just look through your record collection, Aaron.
If I could play all my stuff, I would do it. But there's so many great albums that I would love to play on my channel. And that's like
the way you describe that, I'm like, okay, I need to go on Discogs right now and order that album.
You'd like it. I think you'd like it. It's really good.
Yeah. Now, you know what I don't understand is how it's decided what gets blocked on YouTube and what doesn't. Because so I told this happened to me before, and it just happened to me on, I don't know, I think the last Vinyl Finds episode, I had the band War playing in the background. And one song, Why Can't We Be Friends, got banned in certain countries.
Mm-hmm.
And then the song Lowrider got banned in certain countries. But it said I could still do it. It's just telling me, but it's always like, Iran and Syria, different countries like this that it gets banned in, or Russia. And I don't know. I don't understand how that all works. I know that some people you talked about, Aaron, and I heard this from Red Room Records, that like you get a strike against you for showing certain things, but I've never had that. I've just had a message saying, just so you know, we're not showing this in these following 5 or 6 countries. And I don't know how that works. And why is it certain songs sometimes? I
try to get the bigger ones, like the more popular ones that get a lot of commercial airplay, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know how that works, but
it's so weird. I mean, I played this whole record on my last video, and nobody said anything.
That's weird. You know what's funny is it would be interesting if you would play that. To
see what happens. Yeah.
Don't even say what it is until afterwards. Even.
Yeah. At the end of it, I'd just be like, okay, do you guys realize I just played this whole record? Does anybody care? Are there any copyright infringements or anything? Or
there's got to be more fans of them out there.
Yeah.
They're gonna find you, and those videos are gonna boom.
Maybe I'll find some hot supermodel who's really into them.
I bet that I'm predicting that one. Yeah.
All right. Well, my last album that I'm going to show is by a band. If there was any justice in the world, this band would be more popular than it is, or more people would be talking about this band than actually do. But I am talking about a band called Gomez. And this is their album Split the Difference. I don't know if anybody has heard of them before, but they started out in the UK, and basically they have 3 different singers and 4 different songwriters in this band. They've probably got about 5 or 6 different albums, but they go, I mean, there's definitely a power pop element, but they're psychedelic, they're grunge, they're electronic, so many different styles they incorporate into their music. And for my money, this is their best album. I mean, this has got elements of indie rock, alternative rock, folk rock in here, but they are so talented. And just because they have so many different songwriters, 4 people contributing songs, 3 different singers. I mean, it's almost like a super group or like the Beatles, you know, where you had John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison writing songs. And so, you know, there's no weak tracks on here because there's so much talent in this band. You know, but because there's so many bands out there, this band just kind of gets forgotten about. But, you know, really fantastic. They've got, like I say, 5 or 6 albums. They're on Spotify. But this is my favorite. It's called Split the Difference. I think this came out in the early 2000s, but just a really great band, and just so talented, and yet so underrated and overlooked. But I think they're great, and I am here to wave their flag on this episode.
And I'm just looking right now that there is a vinyl version that came out in the UK in 2004.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's the album to get for my money. They have one called How We Operate, which is also really good. This was probably.
How'd you hear about them?
I don't know. I think I just heard them on the radio, or I heard them on Pandora or something like that. And you know, it's like, God, this is it's really catchy, but they just got overlooked. I mean, I like Wilco, I like Radiohead, I like you know, the Raconteurs, I like, you know, all that like early 80s, or not early 80s, like the early 2000s stuff. You know, I really like, but you know, like the Jayhawks, you know, it sort of remind me a little bit of Jayhawks as well. But if you like all that, you know, they just blend so many different styles into their music, and they jump around stylistically a lot. But it's very cool.
Very cool.
Awesome.
All right. Well, that was our 3 albums. I think we went over an hour just a little bit, but I really enjoyed this episode. Hopefully everybody will check out the different albums that we talked about today. And next week we'll have a different topic, and hopefully we will have Josh with us. But, you know, thanks everybody for contributing. Thanks for watching, and everybody take care.
See ya.